always been a known form of escapism. When we read, we fall into a world not of our own, just for a little while to escape our own reality. Literature has a capability to influence us by the characters or the message that the story sends. As a whole, books are influential. Yet when we think of influential pieces of literature, we will often associate them to be nonfiction. Even though non-fictional stories can be influential, I would argue that fictional books provide an immense amount of application to the reader's lives. Escapism plays a key factor in how readers are able to relate to stories. You're essentially neglecting everything you know about your own personal reality in order to deeply dive into the passages and be indulged into the world you are now living in. That's the beauty of fiction. But you might ask the question, how is fictional literature influential when it's based off of made-up places and fake characters? You'll find that the answer does not rely in escapism, yet it relies on the reader themselves. Fictional literature has a capability to change a reader's core personality traits based on how they relate and identify to the characters or storyline. This then leads the reader to take these traits from the book and apply it to their own life. Yet we first must understand how and why readers have the capability of transforming into their favorite characters. Geoff Kaufman, a postdoctoral researcher at Dartmouth University, and his co-author Lisa Libby, an assistant psych professor at The Ohio State University, founded a study that answers the question of how readers are able to take on the personality traits of fictional characters that they identify with. The study is labeled experience taking, and this is defined as the imaginative process of spontaneously assuming the identity of a character in a narrative and simulating that character's thoughts, emotions, behaviors, goals, and traits as if they were one's own. In order for experience taking to begin, the reader must feel an attachment of identity to a character. They have found that the earlier the story shows the character personality traits, the higher percentage and probability that the reader will take on this experience taking. Right off the bat, this allows the reader to not only become interested with the characters themselves, but also the story, which is the author's ultimate goal. So Lisa Libby conducted 6 experiments to test the study. Studies 1 through 3 focused on the reader themselves, on their own state of self-awareness and self-confidence. Readers who were confident and firm at knowing who they were and their core personality were less likely to change themselves just because they liked a character. Now, they could possibly identify and, of course, relate to them, but it doesn't mean they will neglect who they are. On the other hand, readers who did have low self-esteem had higher increased chances of personifying into their favorite character. In these first 3 studies, the main concept and the focus was the reader. But in study 4, it focused on the book, primarily how it was written, first person versus third person. In a first-person narrative, we get the most personal reading experience because we are in the mind of the protagonist. We know his feelings and his thoughts without him telling it to us. Yet, in third person, it resembles a narrator or an author telling the reader what the character is feeling or doing. Because of this, readers relate and identify more with books written in first person than third person. The last studies, 5 through 6, focus again back onto the reader, but this time on the reader's moral implications and personal views in life. Fictional stories that did not reveal the ethnicity or personal identities of characters until later in the story increased involvement in experience taking. So, for instance, let's say that our reader is against homosexuality and the first chapter that they read indicates that that character is a homosexual. The reader is less likely to take their attributes and apply it to themselves. Whereas if they don't know the character is a homosexual till later in the story, after they've already grown to love and identify with the character, then that leaves them with a higher chance of still identifying with them and even become more accepting. The psychological studies have shown exactly how readers can take on fictional characters, yet it neglects to show another important side. Why are readers identifying with these characters? What factors are drawing them in so deep that they change who they are? Keith Hillman, a graduate from Surrey University with a degree in biological and neurological psychology, deeply studied these questions. and he states that there are 4 common factors on why readers identify with fictional characters. The first is deliberate movement. Now, regarding a fictional character, the character doesn't need to be physically human in order for us to relate to it. The character just needs to have deliberate movement. So take, for example, stories or movies like WALL-E or Toy Story or Transformers. They aren't human, but we know that their movement is stemmed from their own doing, and this allows us to project that they have purpose and reason. The second is our brain neurons, or mirror neurons. They control our emotions, and Hillman expresses that it controls our empathy and our desire. So when we see someone happy, upset, nervous, or surprised, the neurons will fire in our brain in accordance with those same emotions. So this is why we feel what the characters are feeling in these stories. Thirdly is attraction. Hillman demonstrates that attractiveness allows you to care for one another, whether it's physical, social, or task attractiveness. It's a strong factor in what draws the reader to the character that they so identify with. That's because attraction is key to how we live, how we make friends, who our love interest is, and what draws us to even want to relate to a fictional character. And lastly, the setup of a storyline. Hillman focuses on the written aspect of a book and how the author creates and structures his storyline. He states how the author will use its characters to promote each other within the novel, so we can either hate them or love them. And this is how the author helps us relate to them. So now we've established how and why a reader can identify so deeply with fictional literature. So I want to turn your attention to a specific organization where fictional literature is currently influencing younger generations. The Harry Potter Alliance is a nonprofit organization that unites fans to create a fandom to promote social and political activism. Andrew Slack founded the organization, which is based off of Dumbledore's army in the Harry Potter series. And for those of you who don't know who Harry Potter, or haven't read the Harry Potter series, Dumbledore's army was an organization led by Harry Potter, Hermione Granger, and Ron Weasley, the 3 main characters in the book, to teach and prepare their fellow students for how to defend themselves against dark magic. This created community among the characters to come together and achieve a common goal. This is what inspired Slack to create the Harry Potter Alliance. Now, the Harry Potter Alliance is an online organization that runs campaigns and charities around the nation to help improve community. It addresses on multitudes of issues like equality, human rights, literacy, politics, and academics. They have many successful campaigns, and in particular, they're all Harry Potter themed. So in particular, it's Accio Books campaign, where they encourage young readers to go to their local libraries and donate a some number of books, and even donate money so that the HPA can help build and fund libraries in places like Rwanda, Africa, and nations where literacy runs dry. They see where our communities and country are failing to ignite the fire in our younger generations to take part in important issues, and they have created a way to inspire the youth through literature. This was seen in our past upcoming election in a campaign called Wizard Rock the Vote, where the HBA encourages younger generations to go out and vote. Their goal was to use your own voice for issues that mattered to you, not voting for the lesser of two evils. They wanted you to vote for your views, whether it be on education, immigration reform, ending racial and religious profiling, equal work for equal pay, and whatever was passionate to you. They acknowledge that you are the one that will make a difference in your community by using your love for Harry Potter and the literature to make a difference. Expanding literature among all generations is critical to what the HPA believes, and they believe that fictional literature has the power to influence each reader to realize that they have a voice and to stand up and take part in social and political matters. You see, literature is just so much more than just escaping into a story. It can change your views, your goals in life, your own personality, and it can even inspire you to make a difference in your community. Fictional literature is inspirational, influential, and important. This is something that organizations like the Harry Potter Alliance recognize, and I hope you will too.
since nobody else is immediately jumping in, tell us a little bit about Hermione.
Hermione.
That is Emma Watson.
Yes. Emma Watson or Hermione?
How they sort of entangle with one another.
Hermione is a very intelligent character in the Harry Potter series. She's always the one with the brilliant ideas. She solves all the mysteries. She's an activist. She stands up for what's right. And as we have seen in recent years, Emma Watson is big on the Feminist Act. And so they kind of enter, it's kind of ironic to see how Hermione's activism in the series has kind of related to Emma Watson and what she ended up being passionate about in her life.
Jordan, the diagnostic studies that you have brought into the presentation are excellent. I mean, they drive home the point very quickly, and there are very attractive, specific technicalities in them, which make your presentations quite weighty. I am curious if the impact literature would have on a person is limited to fiction only. How about, say, didactic literature or poetry? Would there be not similar impact on the reader, or could we not find character presentations in the manner you present?
I think that any kind of book you can relate to and it could be influential to your life, whether that is poetry. I would say for what I was studying, I was more focusing on characters that you're turning into a character and why and how that happens. I think with poetry, it's a little less colorful in characters. It tells more of a story. I mean, it could be very vivid. I would like to see if there's any critical impact that a reader would have reading poetry versus fiction, and see maybe if it varies at all. I don't doubt that you can't, but my focus is mainly on fiction, just because it's a little bit more colorful.
Mm-hmm.
There's a nice follow-up study for a master's thesis.
Right.
Yeah.
I have another follow-up potential study. Jordan, you've mentioned that those who attach to characters, by and large, are more of low self-esteem. So then the question would be, what kind of study could take place then when we talk about the Harry Potter Alliance? Are the individuals who are connecting to that also of low self-esteem and may not have gone out to help in literacy or not have gone out to vote? And so this is, I don't want to say targeting, but focusing on helping these individuals? Is that clear? No.
Yeah, that's a good thought. I didn't necessarily research that.
Right.
When I was talking about self-esteem, it was more of changing your core personality rather than inspiring. I think the Harry Potter Alliance inspires people to go out and vote and on things that matter in their community. And I think that's more of an inspiration because people love Harry Potter and people love literature. And I think that's less, I don't know, I mean, probably people who might have high self-esteem or low self-esteem will just be joined into the HPA, but I think its work is more of a universal inspiration to get the younger generations to take part in what they believe in.
It would be hard to do any sort of conclusive comparative study between the way people engaged with literature in the past, the way they do, say, with 19th century fiction, because studies wouldn't have been done at that time. But I'd like to ask you to do a little bit of educated speculation. What effect do you think that fan culture has on people's ability to identify? So when I think of fan culture, I think about conventions, I think about mass marketing of these things, I think about the internet. So how has that influenced the way that people now identify with fiction?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I don't think there is conventions and kind of fandoms in older fiction, but I think the people that are more involved in these kind of conventions are that's their whole life, that's what they love, that's their passion. Can you repeat your question?
How has fandom influenced the way that people identify with fiction now, as opposed to the way they've identified with fiction in the past?
I think it would drive them to be more involved. And when you go to those conventions, like I said, it's like your passion, it's what you do in your free time, and I think that can be very influential to literature. So if you like a certain character and you go to a convention and you learn about all these other characters, you can be more influenced to read those kind of books and get involved in that sort of family that they're trying to reach. So I think it can be a little bit, it can grow you.
Thank you, Jordan. We need to move on because of chapel. Kim?